get something to put. Huh? Page divider. Sheet. Tissue sheet. Tissue sheet. Quanto calma teria já que passando dia aí So again, I like to chorus the last speaker to thank you for finding the time out of your busy schedule to come to participate in this sharing and caring in spirituality. I don't know how many of you know about this book, Bhagavad Gita, as it is. I know Bhagavad Gita. Raise up your hand. I have read Bhagavad Gita. Raise up your hand. Many people. Okay. All right. This book is called Bhagavad Gita, and this is a Sanskrit term, which means the song of God. Gita means song. Bhagavad means God, Krishna. We call God Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. So, in the 21st century, we seem to be very busy with so many things. And we sometimes lost focus of our objective criterion in life. And just like if a child is sent to school, says you send a child to college, initial idea is that he or she goes to college to acquire, not just acquire a degree, to acquire, high grades, maybe to get first-class honors, so that he can go scholarship to go for a master's or integrated PhD program. Sometimes people, they're scared. I remember one of my mentees, she got a first-class honor. She's in mathematics, and she's in a remote island in some country near India. And so I said, "Oh, you don't know what you have. First-class honors in mathematics. Come on, go and apply to do an integrated PhD program." She said, "No way." So sometimes people have such a big brain, and if someone comes to tell them, "Please use it like this," they say, "No." And so the point I'm trying to drive home at is sometimes we have this human form of life, and there is an ultimate purpose to this human form of life. This is the point. But we tend to forget. We get distracted with so many activities. Just like if you're on college campus, there are so many activities that could distract you from your focus of studies. Your parents are expecting you to come out with flying colors. And sometimes some students, they drop out from college, not necessarily because they are not smart or they are not intelligent, but because of bad association, bad company. They lost focus. So sometimes also, we are born in a very fertile soil for vegetability in terms of spiritual culture. But we get so much of associations that are not helping us to grow spiritually, and then we tend to miss out everything. And so if we have to be happy on this planet, there's something we need to understand. See, this body we are seeing is like a jacket. This jacket is made up of 5 gross elements and 3 subtle elements. The Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna mentions about Bhumi, earth. Our bodies are dominated by earth elements. That's why we are on this planet, Bhumi Loka. So in most cultures, when people die, they bury them. The body returns to the dust or to the earth. And so in this very book, Lord Krishna, the speaker of this is a dialogue between the Supreme Personality of God, Lord Krishna, and his devotee, General Simo. In these days, you know, to become a general in the U.S. Army is not an easy job. But Arjuna was a general in Simo. He was a Kshatriya of reputed uh, values. But he was a devotee of Lord Krishna. Although military service was his inclination, but he had Krishna as a focus. And because of his devotion to Lord Krishna, he had a chance to be able to interact with the Lord and hear directly from the Lord. And so, no matter what we are doing, we can connect with Krishna, we can connect with God. And that same God has expanded himself into each and every body. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna mentioned that he is the super soul. Aham Atma Gudakeshu. He told Arjuna, I am the super soul within each and every living being. We don't find any devata who made that assertion, who made that claim. No Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Durga, Ganesh. No, we never find anywhere where they say, Aham Atma Gudakeshu, or I am the supreme personality of Godhead, or from me everything is emanating. I am the controller of the whole three worlds. These are the claims of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And he also mentioned that we are his parts and parcels. We were discussing this yesterday. And so we become separated from the Lord. If, for instance, the hand is, this limb is useful in as much as it is connected with the body. If this hand is amputated for a short time, the hand will rot, go off. Similarly, if we disconnect ourselves from the Supreme, there is that general probability. The probability of being happy is 1 infinity. In other words, most unlikely. Because the Lord is the source of bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. And so we are supposed to be relishing that bliss too. And that is why we are looking for happiness in several different ways, you know. We look for happiness in several different ways. If someone is looking for happiness, don't think that they're doing the wrong thing. It's just that they are following they may be following the wrong process. but it is the natural tendency of the living being to look for happiness. Why? Because intrinsically, we are constituted of bliss in a very minuscule scale. Nature of the spiritual spark within this body, the spiritual spark that ignites this body, that gives consciousness to this body. The nature of that spiritual spark, which is part and parcel of Krishna, is Sat Chit Ananda. Eternal, full of knowledge, and ever blissful. That's why we're looking for happiness. It's our, it's our default. The problem is we're looking for happiness, in most cases, in the wrong places. Trying to pursue happiness, exploring happiness in the wrong places. There's nothing wrong in someone looking for happiness. We are bound to look for happiness, whether we like it or not. But if we understand who we really are, that will shape our direction and our strategies for attaining that happiness that will sustain our growth devotionally, socially, and professionally. But we find that people maybe say billionaires. They have their private jets. Yeah, they commit suicide. Why? If we think money buys happiness, why are people who have private jets committing suicide? You see, this is the major reason why we need to explore to understand our pristine identity, who we really are, and what we should be doing with our lives, in addition to our professions and our social values. And so that is why we need to explore. We have to, it's like a journey inward. We have to figure out. You see, people go to school to have big, big degrees and they don't know who they are. They don't know who they are, where they're coming from, and what is their original identity. They don't know. I remember when I was doing my doctorate. So one day, all of a sudden, in America, you don't call somebody without, scheduling an appointment. All of a sudden, I saw my phone ringing, and it was my PhD committee chairman. So I thought, what is this guy up to? What's he calling? What's he calling? Man, he's my professor. So I picked the call, and he was just after my wrapping up the whole thing on time, which is very unusual for your dissertation. She had to come after it and say, "Hey, hurry up, get this thing done quickly and get out from this place." Then he asked me, "Where are you located right now?" I said, at that time I was in Queens. I said, "I'm in Queens right now." So he started asking me some things about Queens, and we are talking. And then he asked, "What do you really do?" I said, "I'm a priest. I'm a monk." He said, "What?" Then he asked me some personal questions about himself, his life. And I just, without wasting even a dime of a second, I just responded, and he was completely shocked. It was complete. There are simple things that anybody who has read proper books for 3 months can answer. And this is a professor of outstanding reputation who has published, and he had supervised over 35 PhD graduates. And here, he doesn't know who he is. And he asked very simple question, and he was so surprised that I answered all of them. He asked me, "Have you written books on this?" I said, "No, but my spiritual master and my grand spiritual master, they've written so many books on these topics that we're talking about." And right from that day, this man's attitude towards me changed. It's something like somebody who had far more greater knowledge than him. But I still see him as, as my intellectual guru. So the bottom line is that people may carry so much of upadis, so much of designations, that they may not know who they are. And therefore, this identity crisis is the sole problem of all the challenges we have on the planet. Identity crisis. We don't know who we are. Identity crisis. What is our pristine identity? What is our original identity? Majority of people, I don't say all because I've not done a quantitative research. So I will say majority of people on this planet do not know their pristine identity. And once we don't know our original identity, there is bound to be some misidentification and conflicts. And so today, we want to share how to be able to have some insight about who we are. Now, according to Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna mentioned that this body, like I mentioned, is like a jacket. We're wearing a jacket of 5 layers jacket. We have earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Mind, intelligence, and false ego are the subtle aspects of it. In total, 8. The gross elements covering the subtle body are 5: earth, water, fire, air, heat. Now, when you go to bed, when you sleep, and you find yourself like, okay, you're staying in New York, and then you find yourself in a dream. You are in London operating, or you are in India operating, or you're going to do some shopping in India or anywhere, or you went to Philadelphia in a dream. What is it that you are experiencing life with in that dream state? That is the subtle body, which is the carrier of the soul, carrier of the spirit soul. And the spirit soul is characterized by knowledge, bliss, and eternity. Or eternity, bliss, and knowledge. This is a simple kindergarten information in spirituality. Yet, the big time professors out there, majority of them don't know. So, before we go on to solve our problems, we need to understand who we really are. Otherwise, it could be very difficult. Because if we know who we really are, then we might have an opportunity not to identify so much with the emotions we experience. We might have that opportunity to be resistant to the negative intrusions or the impulses of the mind and the sensory modalities. So we have this body, which doesn't mean that we should neglect caring the body. The point is that we need to understand what constitutes a real being. So we have these bodies, physical body, and we also have the subtle body, which is the carrier of the spirit soul. And that spirit soul, it part and parcels of Krishna. It's a spiritual entity. So we have a spiritual entity within this body, we have the subtle entity, and we have a gross body. So it's like someone putting on a three-piece suit. Three-piece suit. You have the physical body, subtle body, and spirit soul proper. If we have this fundamental understanding, it will help us to be able to move ahead to deal with the problems that we may encounter. Because the world is a world of problems. And if we don't even understand who we really are, I mean, it's like somebody, again, who is on college campus and does not know his or her goal of being on campus. We are here in this world. Have you ever wondered, for those born in New York, have you ever wondered why you're born in New York? Okay, for those born in America, have you ever wondered why you're born in America, not in Iraq? Huh? Yeah, so there are laws governing this universe. And the laws might not be favorable to us or might be favorable to us. But the whole idea is that if we understand our real identity, then we can try to understand other things in this world. It will be easier for us to understand other things in this world. But if we neglect to explore about our own personal identity through the pages of transcendental literatures like the Bhagavad Gita, we might be doing a lot of injustice to our lives, because we may acquire all of the things that could purportedly make people happy, and we are not happy. Yes, at best, we may have the happiness, but it's very intermittent. So, we need to refine and reinvent the processes and the strategies that we are using for our search for happiness. And it's very simple. In this present age, where life is very short and we get really agitated by little things, this age is called Kali Yuga. Our attention span is so low. In Kali Yuga, people don't like to read. Someone will be wearing a very powerful, nice wristwatch and don't know what is written in the wristwatch. He's been using the wristwatch for 10 years. You ask him, what are the things, what are the inscriptions in the wristwatch? They don't know. We're not interested in reading. Therefore, even these days, even the videos, people, because of short attention span, the videos now are short videos. 1 minute, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Isn't it? Isn't it? You think this is an advancement because our attention span is so low. We can't concentrate on anything for a long time. So there is adjustment by the technologies, by the scholars, by the researchers to suit our purpose. This is the whole thing. And so our idea is to be able to, give to the world what we have. And that is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. That message begins with who we really are. If we search inwards and we explore deeply, we'll come to that realization that we are spirit souls. In other words, we will come to that understanding that we are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Spirit. And then we'll be able to appreciate how everyone else in this world is part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. And it will make it easy for unity in diversity. Otherwise, if we don't know our identity, the question of unity in diversity becomes very, very difficult to deal with. And this is the reason why attempts at unification of the world has always been failing, because the people who are pioneering these efforts, they don't even understand who they are. And therefore, we enjoin you to take time out of your busy schedule to get a copy of this book and read it from page 1. And your life will never be the same. I guarantee you, your life will never be the same. And practice everything you practice everything you come across in this book. Especially the concept that we are not these bodies, that we are all parts and parcels. This is the claim of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Mama Evamso Jivalo. Everyone. He says this is parts and parcels. In other words, we are one big family. Are there questions or comments on this point? Yes.
You're talking about questions or comments on you said your talk in general or something specific? I didn't hear that part.
Any questions or comments?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, there's something I didn't hear, but yeah, I probably oh yeah, my comment is that I think the example of the person with this is what I think, but the person with the jet who committed suicide, even though he's has materially he's really well off. I think it's because he's so he or she is so I think it's a he. You mentioned I forget, but he's so disconnected from the rest of or most of humanity. So it's it does I think that's maybe he got really depressed because of that. Not all rich people do, but some of them they do, and it gets to them. And I think, and so they're so disconnected from the rest of humanity, and like they takes a toll on them, and then they become suicidal. That's my comment. I mean, that's my thought on the person who has this the jet who committed suicide. He has like he's so well off materially. He's like among the probably the 1% the or like the 10% or something.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, people commit suicide for different reasons, but the bottom line, psychiatrists have come up with that. In fact, um, depression. In fact, in prisons, it's so easy to make some prisoner to commit suicide. Just isolate them. Isolate them. Because we are social animals. And so when you get isolated, it's so easy to think otherwise. I don't want to live anymore. When they kill themselves. So thank you for your comment. Yes, please.
Okay. After the Bhagavad Gita, which books do you recommend by your gurus?
Okay, after the Bhagavad Gita, first it is important people should understand what is the content of this Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a devotional literature. It's giving us primary understanding of who we are, our relationship with Krishna, our relationship with God, our relationship with the universe. What constitutes this universe? Where do we come from? Where do we have to go after this lifetime and all this stuff? So after reading the Bhagavad Gita, we have a systematic way of studying these books. And if someone has read the Bhagavad Gita, I remember when we joined, we read Bhagavad Gita and so many other small books written by our founder, Acharya Prabhupada. And then we go to read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is very enriching because it gives you so much of insightful information about the Lord and his devotees, leelas of the Lord and his devotees. And it's really very purifying. Now, one thing we need to understand about the Bhagavad Gita is that the Bhagavad Gita is not different from God. It's not different from Krishna. Because when in the Gita Mahatmya, Lord Krishna in form of Lord Vishnu was speaking with Lakshmi ji, and he told Lakshmi that the Bhagavad Gita is not different from him. And in other words, Bhagavad Gita, when you're reading the Bhagavad Gita, you're actually worshiping the Lord with your intelligence. And the reading should be done with devotion. And also, when you have this Bhagavad Gita, we should be trained not to put the Bhagavad Gita any place, like putting on the floor and all this stuff. There are so many injunctions because just like the way you treat your deities, that's the way you should treat the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Yeah. For instance, you don't put deities on your laps. Yeah. It is that grave, okay? So, yeah, back to your question. Yeah, when you finish reading the Bhagavad Gita, you should read also the other small books. In most cases, people read the small books and the books proper talks, and then referring them, making reference to the Bhagavad Gita. Then people become curious. What is the Bhagavad Gita? Yeah. Have you read some of the small books?
Beyond Better.
Beyond Better. Yeah, that's a good one. There are a number of other small books. The idea is that if you read the small books, it will give you a better, when you read the Bhagavad Gita, it will give you a better illumination. Yeah, because you already know some things the Prabhupada was making reference to the Bhagavad Gita. But if you're someone who's coming perhaps from the Vedic background, yeah, you just read the Bhagavad Gita and then practice the philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita. The essence of this Bhagavad Gita is to teach us bhakti, devotional service to Krishna. The other philosophical things and all this, the back and forth, yoga, yeah. But the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is to surrender to Krishna. Surrender to Krishna in Kali Yoga, it doesn't require you leaving your job, it doesn't require you relocating. It just requires you making some psychological adjustment and align with the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. With the Bhagavad Gita. So you don't really physically move or change anything in your life. You add something to your life. It adds value to your life. In research, if you're conducting a research, the question is, does it add value to the literature, to the domain? Bhagavad Gita adds value to your social life, your spiritual life, your professional life. Yeah. Yes.
You, I noticed you said you got a PhD, and some people might say like that time might have been better spent devoting to God. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on pursuing that intellectual stimulation and exploration in conjunction with God.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see. Our movement, we call the first time the temple an ashram. Ashram is a place where spiritual cultivation is perpetuated. Now, if you have a chance to be connected with the devotional culture, one of the things that you need to do is to have a guide, a spiritual master, for instance. And if you have a spiritual master, you work under the instructions of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is an expert. The advanced guru is an expert talent manager. So he is able to understand your potentials, and he gives you instructions to enable unleashing of your potentials in Krishna consciousness. It's not a question of having high degrees. Some people, I met so many people who have PhDs, even in a movement. But I was instructed to go for the PhD by my spiritual master, Bhakti Vasudeva Swami. Why? This is it. He asked me to go. I was doing the traditional preaching that everyone else was doing, going for Food for Life, book distributions on the street, office to office preaching, book distribution. I gave a report to him, and he wrote back to me to say, Vasudev, your report is good, but all the things you mentioned in this report, any devotee in ISKCON can do it. Go and preach to the professors. So that was like a big challenge. But when he gave me that instruction, I was not even having a master's degree. Imagine someone who doesn't have a master's degree, you tell the person to go and talk to professors. How does that work? How does that work? But you see, when a devotee receives an instruction from the spiritual master, the instruction is encapsulated with empowerment. And there are so many instances of that. I give you an example of even Lord Krishna instructing Subal. Lord Krishna told Subal an impossible task to execute. He told Subal, they were in the groups. And then all of a sudden, Krishna called Subal, hey, go and bring Radharani here just now. It's like asking a fowl or a chicken to pass stool without water. But fowls and chickens, they urinate and pass stool at the same time. So Krishna asking Subal to go and bring Radharani was almost an impossible task, materially speaking. But Subal went ahead. And as he proceeded to execute the instruction, he was empowered with amazing strategies on how to implement that. And he was successful. He got Radharani out of that very tight security, brought out to Krishna. So in my case, my spiritual master instructed me to go to preach to professors. And then he was surprised about the outcome, because in 3 years, I had my first 25 publications in peer-reviewed journals. Someone without a master's degree, without a PhD. Can you hear me? Then he said, hey, Vasudev, go and get a PhD. That's the story of my PhD. And you know what? After finishing my research and all the stuff in the PhD, I can talk the same Krishna consciousness in the language of the political scientists, in the language of the management scientists, in the language of the hardcore physicists. Yeah. I'll give you an example. On, on June 28 June, I had a presentation at the World Academy of Science, Engineering, and Technology in London. My research paper was on how chanting helps to prevent financial fraud. You don't need the research to prove that. But you're dealing with people who are empiricists. So you have to prove your case. Nada money, you never hear nada money defrauding anybody. Have you ever heard that? No. But they don't know anything about nada money. They are not spiritualists. They are not devotees. So you saying that chanting Krishna's name is going to purify the heart, that you become pure and you will not be inclined to cheat or to defraud somebody. Prove your case. Prove your case. So that engendered a research project. We call it a qualitative phenomenological research. So I conducted that research, had it presented. It received the best presentation award at the World Academy of Science, Engineering, and Technology. And then the research was published in the International Journal of Mechanical and Industrial Engineering. Between June 2021 and yesterday, I checked on their website, 705 professors or scholars had downloaded that publication. In other words, over 700 scholars are romancing with Krishna's holy names. Now, for the ordinary person on the street, it is very difficult to meet these people. I remember one devotee told me a story from Gitanagri, how he never went to college. He was distributing books in Boston, at the Boston Howard University Park. So he was one young man. I let him from his car. And he went to meet him to show him back to Godhead. And you know what the guy said? He told him, "Don't you know I am Howard professor?" He said he was completely bewildered. He never went to college, and he saw a young man asking him, "The professors from Howard, they are considered like demigods." And he knew. And so here this young man says, "Don't you know I'm Howard professor?" In other words, what have you got to tell me? He was completely pulverized. He said the whole day he couldn't distribute one single magazine. He's a disciple of Saraswati Goswami. He told me, white guy, he told me this story. Now, I have had worse experience than that. I'll give you an example. Even before I had a PhD, I went to meet one professor, head of department for philosophy and religion, to solicit that I wanted to speak to his final year students. And I put address, the brahmachari dress, tilak and all these things, and he's a hardcore Christian. So he looked at me up, down, 3 times. And then he said, "We don't do this here." Then I said, "Excuse me, sir, but I have 25 publications in peer-reviewed journals in 3 years." He was taken aback. Then he said very politely, "Can I see some of those publications?" So the next day I came with 3 publications from the premier university of the country. I showed it to him. The story turned 360 degrees U-turn. Now, very softly, politely, he asks, so when are you coming to make a presentation? So yeah, there are people who have those high degrees that they preach more than our GBCs, more than our gurus. They are not living in the temple. They may not even have Kantamala. There are just a number of them. They have done researches on the holy name, on the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, how the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra mitigates insomnia, how the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra promotes memory, how the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra promotes high attention span, how the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra mitigates stress, depression, and anxiety. The person who has even a first degree and most master's degree, they cannot do that. First of all, you need to have the skills, research skills, and have the acumen. And so some are proper disciples, and proper prepare them in that way. I remember when in the we used to have this ISKCON Scholars conference. So I remember one time we met in New Vrindavan, and one of these scholars was telling us the story when he was doing his PhD in Proper Disciple. He was telling us the story when he was doing his PhD in Philadelphia there at Temple University. So when Prabhupada had established ISKCON with many followership, some of his godbrothers in India, they are passing this comment that, you see, he's made so many devotees all over the world. He made some hippies. So Prabhupada had that comment from some of his godbrothers. It has been passed on to him. So when this devotee was doing his PhD at Temple University, so some of his godbrothers visited him at Philadelphia Temple. And so Prabhupada asked a devotee to go and call this devotee to come. His name kept escaping me, but he's a guru too. He has a guru. So then the devotee went to wake this a PhD student, this Prabhupada disciple. He said, Prabhupada is calling for you in the dead of night. And because he had Prabhupada's name, he decided to go. But when he went into at Prabhupada's quarter, he saw Prabhupada sitting down with some people speaking Hindi. And we went and paid obeisances. And when he got up, he looked at Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked him, yes, so Ravina Swarup. Ravina Swarup told us this story. He said, Ravina Swarup, what is the topic of your PhD dissertation? So he told Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada said, okay, you can go and sleep. What's the meaning of that? What's the meaning? He wants to show those people that, hey, you say I'm just making hippies? I have also PhDs. When Sariputta Das, he had a PhD in core sciences, I think physics or something like that. When he joined, he was in Atlanta. So Prabhupada went to Atlanta. And then he asked the president, this scientist, is he here? The president said, yes. What is his engagement? The president said, we're engaging him to wash dishes. Prabhupada said, so all that you know is to engage people to wash dishes? This is a scientist. Send him to Bhakti Vasudeva Swami in the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Prabhupada established an institute just for his PhDs. And even when he physically left, that high profile preaching is still going on. So, and see, understand that not everybody is even inclined in Krishna consciousness. Some people don't have the merit. Krishna mentions in the Gita, Bhaunam, Jamanamante, Jnanava, Mamprapati, Vasudeva Swami, Samahatma Sudhura. So, Prabhupada had that universal vision. He didn't just want to establish temples only. He wanted also to get high-profile people involved in his movement. And that is why he set up the Bhaktivedanta Institute. So even now, in India, you see all these young, small boys. I had one of my, aspiring friends. He just finished his PhD in mathematics. Small boy. And he has all these plans on how to reach out other scholars to encroach into their comfort zones with Krishna consciousness. Now, the ordinary devotee cannot do that. And we need people who also have those high profile skills. This is the vision of Prabhupada. And this is the vision of my spiritual master. So he said, hey, Vasudev, you have the potentials. Come on. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Go and face the music. Going for a PhD is facing the music, boy. You think there's a joy there? No. Some days I don't sleep all through the night. You know how many hours I slept last night? 2 hours. I slept 2 hours last night. I am over 60. Do I look like 60? So, bottom line, you need a spiritual master to guide you. Anyone who comes to the movement, ultimately, we need a spiritual master to guide us so that we have a sense of direction. So that spiritual master who has expertise in talent management will enable our unleashing of the potentials in us for sustainable spreading of Krishna consciousness. Thank you. It's a nice question, because, sometimes people think that you don't need to do anything when you have to come to the Hare Krishnas. And some of our devotees also preach like that, college is Maya. Yeah, but then everybody is not going to be a Swami or a Brahmachari. How do you want them to sustain their families? How do you want them to sustain their families? I have a principle. If you don't have a specific skill, look for another guru. Don't come to me. Yeah. If you can't sustain yourself, if you are not self-sufficient, you can't rely, if you are not self-reliant in terms of profession, economic development, please don't come to me. Because I'm not going to make bread for you. I'm a guru, but I'm not going to make bread for you. We have to work together to pave the way for you to go back home, back to God. So we encourage people to understand that this Upanishadic statement, we have to cultivate science and nations side by side, has to be sustained, especially in Kali Yuga. You don't say, well, I just don't want to do anything. I depend on Krishna, and Krishna will do everything for me. Even on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna was the charioteer. He was not the archer. Arjuna was the archer. Arjuna, his close devotee, he was doing something. But Krishna empowered him. He said, do it. I've already finished all the whole business. Do it and get the credit. So yeah, we need to do something. Why did Krishna give us these big brains? All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions before we go to the next stage here?
Yeah, I remember Srila Prabhupada said human form of life is the most conducive to spiritual life.
Yeah, self-realization.
Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. Is Is it possible if you could elaborate why? And is it because we have this gross body? And what if we only have a subtle body? Are we still be able
Legible?
to practice Krishna consciousness?
That's nice question. Uh, you see, on the human platform, on this planet, we are subject to dualities. We feel the heat, and the heat is there. We feel the cold when the winter comes. We feel depressed when someone hurts us very badly. badly. We get excited if we made some accomplishment. And so these dualities are very dominant in the human platform,
On this earth.
on this human platform. You see, higher planets, there is longevity. We also short-lived. We have short lives. On higher planets, people live for a very long time, and they enjoy sense gratification to a greater degree than we do. So they don't really care. But because we are subject to dualism, we can feel the pinpricks. And besides, the human form of life is conducive for cultivating spirituality, cultivating devotional life, because on the heavenly planet there is too much of enjoyment. People are distracted by the enjoyment. I mean, it's just like someone, even on this planet, if someone is superlatively rich, it's very difficult to talk to them about, God. If someone is experiencing some dualities, he's not so poor, he's not so rich, yeah, he has some reasoning to be taking. Oh, why am I experiencing this? And someone is so high up there with private jets and all these things, rather they want everyone else to worship them like God, like Irengasipo. So yeah, human form of life is conducive because we are subject to dualities, and we are not so much opportune for prolonged enjoyment. So who can feel it? And it is so conducive that we can worship the Lord in the form of His holy names without any big deal. It's a vehicle, like you have a vehicle that is favorable for crossing the ocean of material existence. The bottom line is that on the higher planets, it is very difficult to perform devotional service. Why? Too much facilities for enjoyment. Long life. Super beautiful, handsome bodies. Enticing beauty. So here we can discriminate a lot between good and bad and figure out things how to pave way for sustainable development, even spiritual.
I heard we are not the only earthly planet. There's like a blue mandala.
Yeah.
There are a lot of earthly planets.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they practice Krishna consciousness.
Even on the heavenly planets, they practice Krishna consciousness. Even on heavenly planets. But it's very rare because there is too much proclivity for enjoyment. Yeah. Just like on this planet, in our world, if someone is super rich, they hardly will be serious about self-realization. Very few people. But those who are like in the middle, they want to figure out things, they want their lives to be better, they don't want to get into this mad, rat race, and then today you are happy, tomorrow you are not happy. Yeah, people realize that, and they take to Krishna consciousness easily. It's a nice question you raise. Yes.
Here's a question first.
Okay. I just would like if you could elaborate on us being Satchitananda. How is that possible?
Yeah. That characterization is referring to the spirit soul, within this body. That is our real identity. And the spirit soul is very small at this stage of conditioned existence. And the spirit soul is part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is Sat Chit Ananda. And because the spirit soul is part and parcel of Krishna, is also Sat Chit Ananda. But we are not able to experience that Ananda in an expanded, or we experience the Ananda on a minuscule scale. Because we are covered over. The spiritual is covered over. It's like circumscribed. I mean, it's like you have all type of facilities, but if you're circumscribed, you can't really enjoy. And so, Sachit Ananda in content implies that the spirit soul is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. But this body is completely the opposite. We are full of ephemerality, temporariness. Our bodies are transitory. Life is transitory. We're not happy. If even we become happy, might be momentarily, and our happiness is very intermittent. And for eternity, yes, we would like to be eternal. We like to look young. We like to look, be like Nava Yovana, ever young, sweet 16. But we get old. If even you don't know you're getting old, one day you're going along the road and then someone says, Baba, then you know that, oh, okay, I'm getting old. So old age is there. It's catching up with us. We don't want that. But these are the characterizations of this material, ephemeral body. Even the subtle body is not affected by this. It is the physical body. The mind, intelligence, and force, the same mind, intelligence, and ego that we've been carrying for billions of births. Yeah. Physical body is the one that decomposes. At the time of death, the soul carried by the subtle body, moves on. And so the Satchitananda characterization is referring to the properties of the soul, properties of the spirit soul, and in fact, the properties of the ultimate supreme soul, Krishna. And the more we chant in Krishna's names, the more we can have a deep understanding of these very concepts and constructs. Because I've seen people, that I gave books to their father, and then I meet this young man who were in college, someone in college. He reads the books. I know the case of a young man who told me this. I gave books to his father, and then this boy, he was very friendly with me. So we would talk, hang out. And then one day he complained that, the books you gave to my dad, I've read some of those books, but I don't understand anything. Yeah, it is like that. And I've also experienced that when I was distributing books. I remember I was distributing books in a commercial area, and someone came out from his office and he said, "You Hare Krishnas, I like to hear you guys talk. But you know what? I bought your books. I read those books. I don't understand anything." Yeah. So we pass through different stages based on the evolutionary trends of our devotional or sadhana. And so the Satchitananda is the property of the soul, not this physical body. Physical body is ephemeral, subject to decay, subject dead. But if we practice devotional life, we can have a deeper understanding of that very characterization and the whole nature of the soul, how it is the life force within this physical body, what is sustaining us. The soul in the woman, soul in the dog, soul in the ant is the same. That the same properties. We're saying the bodies because we are not self-realized. The pure devotees, they don't see the bodies. They see the super soul. Besides the soul, there's a super soul also within the heart region. So spiritual science is something that we need to incorporate into our own lives, because we will never be the same if we have this knowledge and we practice devotional sadhana. We will never try it. You will never be the same. Yes, and then there are last comment or question. Yes, please.
So I have one question. As I understand, the whole universe is a Krishna himself, right? And every person with his soul is a particle of this superior being, right? So I have this question in every religion which I start to realize and understand. Why this superior being has a will to get a part of himself and create himself as a human? So what is the purpose of all this cycle of reincarnations if this mind is united and superior? Why he needs to come as a human and then go this whole way to return to himself again?
That's a nice point. Now, try to understand, he does not come as a human. See, when Krishna says that all living beings are his parts and parcels, it means that the spiritual entities are his superior energy. There are three major types of energies. There is a superior energy, there is inferior energy, and there is a marginal energy. These are all energies of Krishna. Now, we belong to the marginal energy. The living entity belongs to the marginal energy, which is Tatastha Shakti. This is called technically Tatastha Shakti. We are marginal because we could become influenced by the inferior energy, or we can align with the superior energy. In other words, the spiritual energy, or Antaranga Shakti. Now, if we align with the Antaranga Shakti or the spiritual energy or superior energy, then we become inclined in self-development, self-discovery, self-realization, sadhana, to unfold our growth and reinvent our spiritual identity or rediscover ourselves and realize ourselves. So because we are marginal, we need to be cautious. And it's not that we are God. We are not Krishna. We are not small Krishna. We are never Krishna. We are Jiva Tattva. There is Jiva Tattva, there is Vishnu Tattva. The Vishnu Tattva are the different expansions of Krishna. From Krishna to Balaram to the Chaturvyuha, and then another Chaturvyuha, and then to Mahavishnu. So much is given in the Bhagavatam descriptions about the different expansions of Krishna. Now, the individual spirit soul belongs to the Jiva category. Now, in some schools of thought, they say that we are all God. It's just that we forget, or we are covered over by illusory energy, so we don't understand, we don't realize ourselves. But when we engage in sadhana, we will realize how you are God, he is God, she is God, he is God. No, this is called Mayavadi philosophy. So we are never God, and we can never be God. We are always Tatastha Shakti. We are always marginal spirit souls. So the spirit souls are roaming in this world since time immemorial. Not everyone. Some of the spirits are roaming in this world since time immemorial. And therefore, Krishna makes some arrangements that those of us who are roaming in the material world, he makes some arrangement. I mean, it's like a father that wants their children, or the mother who wants their children to be around him. So Krishna makes some arrangements. Either he comes himself or he sends some of his devotees to come and try to reclaim us. This is the whole thing that is behind this spiritual revolution. Regarding reincarnation, once we have a particular type of body, we engage in different activities. This soul may not be affected in these very activities, but the body that is used will catapult the soul to another, or will impel the soul to take up another body on a different realm or the same realm, or even sometimes the same country, sometimes even this same family, sometimes as a dog, sometimes as a gem, because the spirit soul is 1/10,000 the tip of the air. In other words, if it is a material substance, you can't measure the length and breadth of the spirit soul. It's so minuscule, but it's able to give consciousness to this body. No matter how big the body, imagine the body of an elephant, huge, gigantic. And so we cannot be God. We have never been God, and we will not be God. We are Jiva Tattvas. Idea of devotional life is to create an avenue where we can realize who we are as spirit souls, as just like the sun has rays, or a blazing fire. Blazing fire has all these fire particles. Some of the fire particles may spring up and then fall off from the fire. And they fall down and then merge into the earth. They no longer have that fire potency anymore. So our situation is also like that. When we are disconnected with the Lord because of our desire to enjoy separately from the Lord, Krishna Bahimukha Hana Bhoga Vanchakari. We desire to enjoy separate from the Lord, and there's some problem. I mean, it's like somebody, I remember, were driving the car, and the driver was going a moderate speed. But then he had someone call, Hare Krishna! And he turned, he turned momentarily to see. He was excited, so he turned. Before he turned back, boom! His car hit somebody. Momentary inattention. So the material energy personified watches us. Whether we want to do, are we being inattentive to Krishna, or want to do our own thing? Then it strikes. And therefore, we have to be cautious about how we are deliberating in our day-to-day activities. If we understand that we are spirit souls, we are vulnerable. In fact, we are endangered species. The spirit soul is vulnerable because we're Tatasta Shakti. We are endangered species. We can fall prey to the illusory energy at any time if we have a little distraction. And so, reincarnation implies that we have done something, and then there's provisions for us to rectify ourselves in the next form, in the next existence, and we go through this circle until we are able to rectify ourselves and become pure, connect with the Supreme through the guidance of a spiritual master. Of course, some people say, I already have a spiritual master. I'm already initiated. A bit like I met one lady in this beautiful lady in Calcutta. And then as I was there in the temple, and some of these devotees came to call me to come and speak to some guests. And this lady, she's from Calcutta. Beautiful lady. She married to one French guy. French guy is also very handsome. He had a baby, so they came there. And then I was discussing with, I was asking her some things, and then she said, "Oh, she's already initiated." I said, "Oh, good for you. So you chant 16 rounds?" No. He said, "No." He said, "You follow 4 principles. No, eat meat. You don't eat meat, fish, and eggs." She said, "No." She said, "We don't follow anything. We just got initiated. That's it." And we can see there are, even on the spiritual part, there are so many case situations where people can take things for granted very cheaply, and it's like, having to marry, and then you feel there's no commitment. I don't have any commitment. I can go and get some women, or I can go and get some men. Married is fine, but no, I don't care. No, it doesn't work like that. Marriage is commitment. Spiritual connection is a commitment. You have to be a human. You have to follow some principles. If you want to go back to God, then you have to follow some principles. Okay. All right. So we'll end here. Thank you again very much for participating in this Krishna consciousness. I would like to get you to go and for the next phase. Prasadam, is that right?
We have a kirtan.
Okay. Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki.
So for the next part of the program, thank you so much, Maharaj, for this talk. We can just stand up and put all the mats to the side, and then we'll engage a little bit of kirtan yoga. So we can all just stand and get ready. Nick, you want to be my participant for this week? So, and everybody knows the Maha Mantra? Okay, please repeat after me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
So by focusing on this mantra meditation, as we did